So there's a shift happening right now. Technology is evolving so fast. Leadership is also evolving fast. Human capital is being redefined. And right now, Vinny Tafuro comes to talk about that shift. His work challenges the traditional models of leadership. And at a time where many organizations are struggling to align purpose with performance, Vinny is showing what it looks like to lead with both. Vinny, thank you so much for being here.
Tony, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. I'm excited about the podcast. Been listening to a couple of the episodes already. It's great conversations, and I'm honored to be here. And it's been great to be your friend for so long as well.
Vinny, I think you were one of the first people that I got the pleasure to really diving deep into this evolution of capitalism. I think you were one of the first people that introduced me to conscious capitalism. You were one of the first people that I started talking about B Corps and social enterprise models. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I appreciate the conversations that we've had. And I'd like to start with anchoring and framing that mindset.
Okay.
What were those things that happened in your life? What were those moments that shaped your outlook of the world and made you say, we need something different?
Yeah. You know, I would say I'm going to go back to childhood with this one. An not often told story. I was like, I think in third grade when the 1989 stock market crash happened. And my father had like traded stocks and penny stocks and stuff when I was a kid. He always talked about the markets and this and that. So I was like, I knew the market had crashed. And I was like, why would a market crash? It's just people trading stuff. It didn't make sense to third grade Vinny, and it still doesn't make sense today sometimes. But that kind of just was buried for a long, long time. And I mean, 2 or 3 different career shifts between programming and internet and a lot of technology stuff. It was around 2011, 12 that I started really questioning what the goals were of business and why. Because it wasn't clear. Like I knew I started a business, and like we start businesses because we have passions for something usually, but the purpose of business was this blanket maximize profits at any cost. And like I couldn't reconcile those with the vision of small local business that I saw compared to, but when you look at big business, it kind of looked like that. And so I started researching that, and that's really where I just started asking more and core questions like, well, why do companies have to do that? Well, they don't, but they start doing that once the founder leaves is often. And that's, the first book I wrote, Corporate Empathy, was one of the examples was Walmart. And when Walmart went public in the late 80s, early 90s, whenever they went public, they had one of the better employment compensation packages because Sam Walton, the founder, realized that was their lifeblood, was making sure their teams were engaged. But then, if you started in the 90s and early aughts, and even in the 80s a little bit, you started with companies that would start using employees to balance the books. And so we started learning, if you lay people off, the numbers are higher. If you bring people, so we started using those employee benefits and salaries and whatnot and started squeezing them. So I started seeing that.
How did you get more involved in those subjects? Because when you were a kid, obviously you get the influence of what's being talked about at home, or those little bits of wisdom that your dad might give you, but at some point you started taking it more seriously.
It was really in looking, because I spent a number of years involved with the American Advertising Federation, and while I wasn't in an advertising agency, I did digital programming and website design and marketing and whatnot. But it really, in engaging with that organization, I got to see how much social media was able to do with data well before it was Cambridge Analytica and common conversation. Like this was 2008, 9. I understood what a tracking pixel was long before the general population did.
Interesting.
And so I realized, well, if advertisers have all this data and people don't make rational decisions, they make emotional decisions. But economics says everybody makes rational decisions all the time because they have all the information about every purchase. I'm like, those again don't reconcile. And so that's really where I started digging deeper, because at that point, I was in my early 30s, early mid 30s, and that's where the inspiration to write a book came out. And really, when I said I was going to write a book, I had no idea what the title would be. Didn't really know what the subject would be. It was kind of this dark book at once, about the loss of American dreams and cars and whatnot. So I would say 75% of that book was stuff I didn't know the day I decided I was going to write it. But 9 months later, I had 2011 was just the amount of books and web videos and content that I consumed on economics is kind of shocking.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I say that writing a book is the research to write a book is what killed my web design business at that point in my life, because that's when I was like, well, I think we're done with this part of the career. So,
Do you consider yourself more of an economist or a philosopher or market?
I would say my profile says polymath, which I've kind of grown a little bit like an endearment to, because not a lot of people use the term. I've heard it, I hear it sometimes, but really it's this idea of multiple interests. And so my graduate degree is in foresight, and futurist and foresight feels comfortable. I think economics is this pigeonholed idea. Like if you look, Adam Smith was a philosopher. He invented economics. He was not an economist. He was a philosopher. Same thing. Keynes would consider himself more of a philosopher. It's not till you get to post-World War II that economist is this self-built title that has this weight with it. Before that, you were philosophy. It was a philosophy. And so I would lean more towards philosophy, but in the old sense of observing different things that are disparate and being able to put ideas together. I mean, that's the definition that Adam Smith used in the beginning of World and Nations, was the idea of philosophy of looking at things and putting them together. So I would say that's probably where I lean. It's not often the title that I lead with, and depending on what's out there
For sure.
written.
Sure.
But yeah.
One of the things that catches my attention in how you look at the world is that it's very human-centered.
Yeah.
And there's definitely an opportunity to redefine leadership.